If you're going to take the time to track calories, you want to make sure that you're doing it as accurately as possible. Now, you can really use any app, honestly, that you want to use for tracking calories, but in this video, I'm going to show you how to track calories when using Cronometer, which is the app that I prefer and also the app that I recommend to my clients. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dustin Williams, and for the best health, nutrition, and fitness advice, make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit that little notification bell so that you're notified when I post a new video every single week. Now, everything that I'm going to show you and go over today is going to be done using the Cronometer app, but ultimately you can really take the information that I talk about today and apply it to pretty much any other calorie tracking weight loss apps out there that you're using for this purpose. Now, anytime that you have or consume any food that contains calories, you want to make sure you track it. The small things, the big things, all of it. If it contains calories and if you consume it, you want to make sure that you're tracking it. And thankfully, these apps like Cronometer are making it a lot easier and more efficient for us to get this accomplished. Now, if it's your very first time using one of these apps, one of the first things that's going to happen is you're going to put your information in and it's going to recommend calorie ranges for you. Now, you can use this information. It's not typically the one that I recommend. I've actually done a full video on this. If you need any help figuring out a good starting point for your calorie ranges whenever you're focusing on fat loss, as I said, I've done a video on this topic already. I'll actually link below in the description if you need to be walked through that. It's a pretty quick, simple, easy process. Check that video out, but I'm just going to kind of skip over getting the calories and focus just on tracking the calories, assuming you already know what range you're trying to be in. Okay, so what I go over as I'm inputting this information and showing you how to do this, I'm actually going to be recording it on my phone. I'll put it up here on the screen so that you can kind of follow along with what I'm doing. I'm going to start by kind of going over the basics of inputting food whenever you're using this app at any point. And I'm actually going to prep my breakfast for tomorrow. I have some eggs, cheese with a little bit of butter that I prep and I make in my Sous Vide every single morning. It's one of my favorite breakfasts. It's super easy for me. I like to prep it the night before, so all I gotta do is just drop it in the Sous Vide water and it cooks on its own. So I'm gonna kind of walk through prepping that so that I can show you as we go through this. So whenever we are in the app, as you can see through here, January 22nd, it's got the date on there. It's got numbers calculated out. So on average, you can see my energy right there at the top. I'm shooting for around 2,300 calories. I've got a minimum of 160 grams of protein, even though I typically try to go over that. These are just numbers that I'm working on for myself. These can be adjusted for any individual based on what your goals are. But whenever we're adding the food, you just hit this big plus sign right down here on the bottom, and it pops up several different metrics that you can potentially use. So you can add food, different biometrics, like if you want to keep your weight tracking in here, if you wanted to add exercise in it. The two biggest ones that I'm going to say that you want to focus on for the topic of this video is going to be the add food button and the scan barcode button. And at any point, if you have the ability to scan the barcode, this is what you're going to want to do to make sure that you're being completely accurate on whatever it is that you are eating. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give you an example. So we're going to go ahead and hit the scan barcode button here. So it's going to bring up my camera. If you haven't already authorized it to give you that, you want to make sure to authorize the camera. So I've got my eggs here. So these eggs are just grade A large eggs, and I use 2 of these whenever I make it. So there's a barcode on the back of this. All I'm going to do is hold my camera over the barcode, get up to it so that it can scan it, and it scans it and recognizes the eggs. It knows that they're Walmart stores, large white eggs, and it says 1 egg is the serving size. So I can measure it by egg, by ounce, by grams. And I know that I'm going to use 2 eggs whenever I'm making this. So I'll hit 2 eggs and I will hit save. So it's now added this to my totals. You can see that 2 eggs are going to be about 140 calories. It's giving me about 12 grams of protein and about 10 grams of fat that's coming from this. So this was easy, this was accurate. We know that we're using these exact eggs because we use the barcode and we scanned that. All right. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm using a finely shredded Fiesta blend cheese. It's a reduced fat. It's made with skim milk or low fat milk, 2% milk instead of whole milk, so it's got a little bit less calories in it. I typically will use this. I really like it. So same thing. I'm going to hit the plus button. I'm going to hit the scan barcode, and I'm going to hold it directly over this barcode. So it starts loading it up. Set this over to the side. Now, as I've said before, I've done a video specifically on weighing and measuring your food. You want to make sure that something like the cheese, that you've got a good food scale so that you're not eyeballing your food. Eyeballing it is not going to be beneficial. If you want to track, you want to track accurately. It doesn't take hardly any more time to weigh and measure stuff. So I'm actually going to be using a scale. Now I know from my experience, whenever I make this, I put 35 grams worth of this cheese into my food. So under the serving sizes here, we've got ounces, we've got cups, we got grams. So I'm going to choose the grams because that's how I'm going to weigh it. And then under the amount, I'm going to put in 35 and I'm going to hit save. So now at this point, it's put it to where it's got 140 calories from the eggs. It's got 100 calories coming from my cheese. We can see that right now I'm at 240 calories, 22 grams of protein, 16 grams of fat for this meal. Again, super simple, just scanning it, inputting the exact amounts that I'm eating, exactly 2 eggs, exactly 35 grams of the cheese, so that we know that we're being very accurate. And then the last thing that I do is I add about 2 grams of butter whenever I mix it together. So the butter that I'm using right now is just it's a Kerrygold, comes from grass-fed cows. It's a little bit softer butter, so it melts a little easier. Same thing, I'm gonna hit the plus button, I'm gonna hit scan barcode, and I'm gonna hold it right up over this barcode. Automatically populates it for me. I'm gonna weigh and measure out the butter here in a minute, and that is going to also be 2 grams. That's how much I like to put in there. So 2 grams, so I'll push the 2, under the serving size, make sure the grams is selected, and hit save. So now that's only adding 14.3 calories, which isn't a lot, but we want to make sure that we are tracking everything that contains calories. Because if there's 15 calories here, 20 calories there, another 10 or 15 calories here, and if this happens multiple times a day, and if you're not tracking it, that adds up to 50, 75, 100 extra calories that you're potentially getting that you weren't aware of. Now, I'm not going to waste your time in the video of showing me actually mixing these things together. But now that I've got everything weighed and measured out, I take the cheese, the butter, and the eggs, I stir it all up, I beat it up, and I put it into a little mason jar, and then I put that in my sous vide, and I cook it every morning. But if you need any assistance or need a little bit more information on exactly how to weigh and measure things properly using a scale, I've done a video on this as well. I'll link below to that video so you can check it out if you want to make sure that you're doing that accurately as well. So from here, I put in my entire breakfast. So this is what I'm going to have for breakfast. Sometimes I may have a little bit of orange juice with it, in which I would do the same thing. I would scan the barcode on the orange juice. I would weigh and measure out exactly how much of the orange juice that I'm drinking and input that and add it. You'll follow this same process through your lunch, through your dinner, through your snacks, whatever you're eating, every single thing that you eat all day long, in order to make sure that this is staying accurate, because you are scanning the barcodes and you're putting it directly on the scale. Now, one of the questions that I get is, what if the food doesn't have a barcode? That does happen, especially if you're eating like fruits and vegetables. A lot of times those don't have barcodes. So in those situations, whenever you push the plus sign here, and instead of hitting scan barcode, you would hit add food. All right, so on here, since this has actually got an apple as the picture, so we're gonna look up apple. So you would look up the apple. So you've got apple fresh with skin, you got apple fried, different things to do here. So if you're just eating an apple, you would click the apple fresh with skin, and then you can click on that down arrow, and you can see you got quite a few different options. So you've got a large apple, medium apple, small apple. If you cut it up, ounces by the slice, tablespoon, however you're choosing to do it. If you watch my video with me explaining how to weigh and measure food, I typically just use ounces and grams. And whenever you are measuring an apple, remember, you only want to measure and weigh the part that you're eating. So you're not going to eat the core, so you don't want to measure the entire apple because you're not going to eat that. You'd want to cut the core out and then measure it. So in this situation, if I would go down, if I was going to measure it in grams, I would click grams, and then once I weighed it, how many grams does that come to? If it was 200 grams, that'd be 104 calories, however you would want to input that. But that's what you would do, is just, if you don't have a barcode to scan, you would click on add food and go from that. Now, a couple of little tricks that I really like whenever I am using this app that save a lot of time for me. I am a creature of habit. Most of us are. I tend to eat a lot of the same foods. It's not uncommon for me to eat something on a Tuesday and then repeat it almost exactly on a Wednesday. So one thing that makes this app really great is, right now I'm looking at what I input for breakfast on January 22nd. If I scroll, and let's say it's January 23rd, I can click the three dots up in the upper right hand corner, and then you can see copy previous day. So if I click copy previous day, it's automatically going to take everything that I had tracked the day before and put it on today's listing, which makes it so much easier than having to go back in and manually input everything if you're planning on eating a lot of the same foods. So that makes it a lot easier as you're tracking, like I said, if you tend to be eating a lot of the same things day in and day out. And that applies to any day. I could go back a week, click on that day, copy that day, and then paste it into the day that I'm eating if there's something that I had 4 or 5 days ago that I want to basically eat that exact same thing again. And then the other thing that I recommend that you use if you're going to do this very often is the recipes function. So whenever you're doing something like my eggs, so let's say if you don't want to manually scan the eggs, scan the cheese, and scan the butter, but you know that you eat this like I do pretty much every single morning for breakfast. And you could create a recipe, which you'd only have to do one time. You would name the recipe whatever you wanted, and then all you'd have to do would be type that recipe in each time you eat it instead of entering in every single thing. So I'll show you some examples. So down here on the bottom, you see the apple that says foods. If you click on that, you've got the My Recipes and My Foods. So I'll click on the My Recipes, and I'm actually going to click on this milk chocolate here. So a little while back, my wife and I were experimenting on making some of our own chocolate, adding a little protein and trying to keep the most of the ingredients a little bit more whole. So we tested it out and we made a recipe out of this. So you just go in and you name it whatever you wanted to name it. So I named it milk chocolate, and the entire recipe, you put everything in there. So it had 30 grams of cocoa powder, 17 grams of dry non-fat milk, 80 grams of coconut oil, 150 grams of honey, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 35 grams of gelatin to add some protein to it, and 30 grams of the powdered sugar. This was the entire thing. So if I scroll over one, and if you see, I've got one serving, and then I've got servings per recipe, which is 10. So when we would make this on average would make for her and I about 10 servings. That was how we chose to break it out. You can make that 8 servings, 12 servings, however many servings you wanted to make it if you're making something big that you know is going to be more than one meal. So then from there, under serving size, you can see the full recipe. So if we ate all of it at once, this is showing 1,545 calories. That's a lot, right? But since we set it up for 10 servings, if I scroll down to serving size, that's what we set it at. One serving was 155 calories. So we could have something like this, which was 155 calories compared to a candy bar, which can be 250 to 400 calories. But we kind of got our chocolate fix whenever we were feeling we wanted something, and it had a little bit better ingredient base too. So this was something that we used, but as we were making this more often, it gets tiresome going back and entering in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different items and scanning them all every single time I wanted to eat it. So if you create this recipe and put it in that way, once it's in there once, you won't have to put it in again. And this way you know it's your recipe, because you don't want to try to find somebody else's milk chocolate recipe that makes it completely different than what you do. You want it to be your recipe so that you know that your numbers are completely accurate. So now you should know how to accurately track your calories whenever you're using these apps so that you can be as accurate as possible and really make sure that you're staying on top of it. But there's more to it whenever it comes to creating an overall healthy lifestyle, not just fat loss. And I've actually created a yo-yo diet guide. Yo-yo dieting cure is what I call it. And it's a completely free guide. It's 10 steps to push you in the right direction of being able to create a lifestyle and eliminate yo-yo dieting. And I'm giving this to you guys completely for free. All you need to do is click the link below in the description. It'll take you to my website, and you can download this guide completely for free. And hopefully it'll help you out and put you on the right path to creating a lifestyle and not just a short-term diet. And of course, if you liked this video, I would really appreciate it if you'd smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and otherwise I will see you guys in the next video.